could work more with variables. I introduced them when I was showing you how to make a star using variables. This is going to be a much simpler shape. It's going to become a snowflake. I usually start by declaring all my variables at the beginning of the program. Typically, I'll do that after size, but I could have done it first. But I declare them all together. So I'm going to have a stroke weight, which I'm going to call my stroke weight. And this is considered camelback notation. In camelback notation, the first letter of the first word is lowercase. Each new word starts with a capital, sort of like the humps in a camel. It allows me to create a variable name that has a lot of meaning to me. And when I declare a variable, I have to say what kind of variable it is. In other words, what is it going to hold? This is going to hold an integer. And I'm going to set my stroke weight equal to 2 so that my stroke will be 2 pixels. The next variable I'm going to set up is x. So I will have int x, and I'm going to start that with an initial value of 100, and I'm going to have int y with an initial value of 100. If something were unclear, I could provide further comments, the y-axis location, but by naming it x and y, it's clear enough to me, even if I came back 6 months from now, I'd know what it meant. So you should use enough comments to make things clear, but no more than you need. Then I'm going to have int square, and this only makes sense because I'm working with graph paper. I could have this just be unit, it's my unit of measurement, but because I'm working from graph paper, this helps me know that it's 1 square, and we're going to set that equal to 5, or 5. So this represents 1 square from, and sometimes it's easier to work with the screen a little bigger, graph paper. So I've got my stroke weight, my x, my y, my square, and that's pretty much it for my variables. So I'm going to type in the code to create just this initial shape. And so now I'm going to get into what's called desk checking. It's a good idea before you actually hit play to read through everything. Make sure that you have the appropriate number of parentheses and check for errors before you actually hit the play button. When you hit the play button, it will compile your code. And what that does is it translates your language processing into the machine language. So to me, this looks like I have everything in here. I probably still have an error, but it's a good idea to check visually before you actually run it. Nope, I didn't have an error. Okay, so that's good. I didn't change my stroke weight here, which I want to do, so I had a logical but not a syntax error. So I can put my variable for my stroke weight in here so that it uses that. Test it again. There we go. And then I might also want to actually change my background color. I can use my color selector for that. And I actually prefer to do the RGB. So I'm going to do 18, 25, 149. And then I want to do a stroke color. stroke, and we want that to be really light gray, almost white. So we'll do 255, 255, 255. That should be pretty much white. And then we'll stop it and try it again. There. And that gives me a simple snowflake using variables. Now if I want it to be smaller, because that's a little large for me, then it's very easy to change the whole thing by changing that variable. I can change its location by changing those variables, changing the x and y coordinates. And I can make it even smaller here. And that gives me a very small snowflake, which is going to let me do some cool things in the upcoming lectures.